April is Earth Month. If there is one thing I've learned, it's that quality is sustainability. Think about it. When you invest in well-made, durable products, you're not just buying something that lasts longer. You're keeping waste out of landfills and reducing the need for constant replacements. That's exactly why I love Avocado Green Mattress. Avocado mattresses are crafted with the highest quality certified organic materials and expert craftsmanship. They're also climate neutral certified, meaning every purchase helps reduce carbon emissions and supports a healthier planet. Avocado mattresses offer easy financing options with Affirm, sleep trials up to 1 year, and generous warranties for your peace of mind. The best part is that you can try before you buy. You can visit one of their retail stores or premier retail partners to experience the comfort firsthand. Head to avocadomattress.com today and save up to 10% on certified organic mattresses. Dream of better for you and the planet. I know firsthand how much stress can mess with your hormones. Between work, life, and everything else, it's easy to feel completely out of balance. That's where Happy Mammoth comes in. They offer a free 2-minute quiz that can help you uncover the root cause of your hormonal symptoms. It's super easy. Just answer a few questions about what you're going through and where you're at in life. You'll get a personalized recommendation to help balance your hormones and start feeling better. When I took the quiz, it suggested that my body may be overloaded with hormone estrogen and may be struggling to metabolize it. By taking Hormone Harmony, it could help with bloating, anxiety, fatigue, overwhelm, and so much more. With over 40,000 5-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. So if you're ready to start feeling like yourself again, head over to happymammoth.com and take their free 2-minute hormone quiz today to find the ultimate answers to your stubborn hormonal issues. And for a limited time, you could also get 15% off your entire first order with our code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to DATEABLE. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of DATEABLE.
We're talking about breakups, but we're still welcoming everybody back because it's a positive way to talk about breakups.
It's a positive conversation. And, this topic does bring me back, though. I was thinking about it. Like when we have this conversation, you sometimes forget when you're out of it, but just like the pain that breakups bring. But I think the way that this conversation is phrased, it obviously addresses that and fully acknowledges it. But it's super tangible of like, how do you get out of it? Because I know for me, it was really hard because I kind of stayed in it for a while and I almost like marinated in it instead of actually finding ways out. Luckily, eventually I did.
Well, it seems odd that for most of us in dating, our main goal is to try to avoid breakups. But breakups are inevitable because you're not always going to be with the right person. So it's just as prevalent as starting relationships as it is breakups. So we should almost normalize the ending of relationships. But I still remember our conversation with John Kim, the angry therapist who wrote the book Breakup on Purpose. And when you name the breakup, it feels a lot less daunting. Like it's almost scientific. And it's nice to know that everybody will go through some breakups in their lifetime. You're not alone in this.
I also think it was completely serendipitous how we got introduced to our guest, Cole Zesiger. We actually had this conversation with this mental health startup, Una, who he is an advisor for. So we had heard his name in that conversation. And then I think it was within 24 hours, he messaged us on Instagram and he had seen, a video that we did with Sabrina Zohar when she was on our podcast. So completely unrelated. But I was like, we literally just heard about you and we were going to reach out to you. It was just fate.
The universe really just serves you the people you must meet in your life. And sometimes they come in at once. And we're so glad we met Cole, but also it just seems like the perfect timing too. And we do get this message a lot and we hear you. It's always about how do I get over someone? How do I get over a breakup? How do I get over this heartbreak? This is another great conversation to add on to your playlist of all the other episodes that we've done just to really dampen that fall.
I think another point of this conversation that was really interesting to me, because I feel like I have a friend that's kind of going through this right now, is like, what happens when the person you're dating ends up not being ready for a relationship? And Cole talks about his own personal life of how he, had his divorce. I won't go into the whole story, but realized he was definitely not ready to be dating again. We've talked about this before, like the roadkill of like the people that kind of get caught up when someone else is healing, and like how do you kind of avoid that from happening. So I'm really glad that we dove into that in a lot more depth in this conversation too. Give some really tangible like signs to look out for that he experienced himself, but also he's now witnessed through coaching all these people after he became a breakup coach.
Yeah, so that's who Cole is. In case you're wondering, who is this person we're talking to? He is a breakup coach. This is his area of focus because he had to help himself out of some heartbreaking situations. And now he's in this very happy marriage, but it took him through quite a few obstacles to get there. But for him, his biggest learning is he had to go through that to meet his now wife and to be in this now relationship. And for anybody who's going through it right now, this is the episode for you because when you're in it, it's hard to see the big picture. But Cole, who has come out of it, will show you that big picture.
I mean, Yue, like for me, I'm thinking back to my worst breakup ever. It's when I could not get out of bed. And I feel like that one was, with my most serious ex that I've talked about. And it was like my first like real love. So it like hit me really hard. But I think that breakup was such a catalyst for going to therapy and, doing this podcast even. I did technically start it when he was still in the picture, but I think it still like gave me a more of a catalyst of like understanding myself better and how I was showing up to a relationship, what I really needed from a relationship, things that I didn't really think about before. I think before I was like, oh, cool, I'm in a relationship. Exciting, finally, but not like, is this actually like a good relationship for me? What do I need? It was easier said than done. Like in hindsight, I was able to see this. When I was in the thick of it, I was like not able to get out of bed.
Yeah, in the same camp as Cole and John Kim, who said the same thing. Their breakups were the catalyst for some of the best things to happen to them. And I often cite my last breakup as the best thing to have ever happened to me. Although nobody would wish this kind of heartbreak on anybody. But there is something to be said that to the fact that we are all so naturally and biologically resilient. And if we choose to tap into that, only good things can come out of it. So when you've hit rock bottom of a breakup, the only direction to go is up.
So question for you. I think about this a lot. I think my breakup was so hard because he didn't do anything. Like it was more of just like a reality that we were not in the same place of our lives, not really looking for the same level of commitment and incorporation.
Yep.
And he also had just some things, he had to navigate on his own related to his own health. That being said, though, it made it harder because it like kind of was like, oh, it's just the wrong time. Eventually it'll all come into place. And then I look at situations like yours and then other friends that are just like, this person was so freaking terrible. And is it like almost easier in a way? Because you're like, I'm just so over it. But also there's a different kind of, fallout that happens of being like, wait, was this the person I was dating the whole time? Were they like this? I don't know what your take is, but I mean, they're both hard in different ways, but I think maybe the latter is easier to move on from, even if it's like more difficult in the immediate.
Sure. We've had so many conversations about this. It is so much easier to go through a breakup when someone's clearly at fault or someone displays very clear douchebag asshole behavior. But when you're still in love, the feelings are still there and it's just you're not right for each other. Those are the hardest because on so many levels, you feel like you're not being chosen, even though you're with the right person. And then also things feel like out of your control. Why don't we just work through this? Why does it have to end? Like why, if we're meant to be and we're right for each other, don't we just work on the relationship and it'll work? And that's not always the case. So I think there's just like so much more that we think we can do to save the relationship, as opposed to when someone does something terrible, then there's not much else you can do.
The only thing when someone does something terrible, I feel like this doesn't even happen to me, but it's like been, through other people. I just like, I'm like, wait, what? This person that I thought was so great isn't? And I feel like there's like this weird like grappling to like put it together and make it make sense. Like, did you feel that way at all? Or were you just like,
well, yeah, obviously, because the person you trust the most, the person you're most vulnerable with, the person you think you know the best, turns out to be someone that you never thought they would be. Yeah, that's going to be, it feels very jarring. But at the same time, I think what makes that easier is that you let people make their own choices. So you kind of just say, okay, they chose to be not the right person for me. That's their choice.
Right.
And it's not like I drove them to be that or they didn't choose me. It's really the onus is on them.
I think the biggest challenge for mine, and where I maybe could have been more enlightened had I listened to episodes like this, was that I like didn't accept it. I didn't accept that it was over. I just thought like, oh, the time. And we talk about no contact in this episode, which is such a hot topic. But I was totally using no contact as like, I'm just gonna, wait a month and make them miss me and come crawling back, opposed to like, how do I like move forward in my own life? Like, I think I was very stuck. That was where I was. And I mean, look, you got to go through what you go through. Like, I think in the scheme of things, it actually ended up being what I needed, because I ended up taking like a year break of dating and really reflecting on my patterns and what I wanted and needed. And eventually that set me up. But looking at that year back now, I'm just like, I was so like stuck in like just not doing anything.
I know. The stuck energy is the worst feeling because you feel like you've lost control. You feel like this is the all-consuming thing in your life, and it's disheartening because it takes full control of your emotions. And that's why this conversation is so imperative for us to have. And that's why we actually like to bring you breakup episodes, because we must normalize this feeling we all go through in a breakup. It's this grief and a loss that we don't normally talk about. And I really hate that the traditional breakup advice is just go out and distract yourself. The best way to get over someone's to get under someone, and go take up all these hobbies and go travel. Like, those are all the things to distract us, but the feelings still are there. And if you don't address them, it is exactly the stuck feeling that you're talking about.
Well, I remember you consciously being like, my old self would have gone and got on a flight and avoided this. And I'm not going to do that this time around. And I think that was really big. Yeah.
It's like, take back control. My first thought was, I need to move because this apartment is full of memories of us together. Then I had to remember, no, this is my fucking apartment. Right. This is my fucking territory. Why should I let him move me? Why should I be the one displaced? So I just like, my friend Amy came over, saged the entire apartment, changed up the furniture, changed up the vibe, threw out his shit into the hallway. Like, there were so many ways to clear the air where I felt like I got the control back.
And we did put up a post about this on Instagram, but we have like a variety of different guides that we've created for different situations. And I think this one's near and dear to both of us, because clearly you went through it. I don't know. What was it, 2 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
It feels like longer than that. But I think the fact that you armed yourself with so many tools and ways to move through it consciously was so good. And then, like I mentioned, I definitely had a few breakups in my time with the same person, mind you. But the first breakup with that person versus the one in the pandemic before I met my, fiance, like, such different experiences. I feel like I had, more methods. I had like different ways to like really come out of it and accept it and move forward and not hold what I wanted to this one person like I was before. So we decided, like, we want to help people. We want to make something tangible, give people like that that 30-day reset because it really takes doing something diligently, especially in times when you really just want to like crawl up in a ball and like not leave your house.
Which is also fine.
Which is also fine. But like the fact that it's like one thing a day, and we're not saying like do 100 things, just do one thing, feels like you're accomplishing something. It feels like you're moving forward. So if you're in the thick of a breakup right now, we're going to put the link in the show notes, but you can also go to dateablepodcast.com/programs.
Nice. I could have really used this during one of my major breakups in my 20s because I know you all think like, oh, this is what I thought. I have all the resources out there. The internet is full of information. Why don't I just go to the internet? Okay. One, I could not get myself to even type in these words like how to get over a breakup because it just felt like I was admitting defeat, right? And two is there's too much information out there. I just didn't know where to start. It's so fucking overwhelming. So having this guide, it is baby steps every day that it clearly guides you into a direction out of the stuck energy so that you don't have to sift through the millions of articles and, you know, all the resources out there. And some of them really lead you astray.
So I was the exact opposite, that I went to Google hardcore. I think every search was like, how do I get my ex back? How do I get over it? But it was all ruminating. Like I wasn't actually taking action with anything. So I think that's the big shift of like so much information out there, especially when you're like going on forums and shit. And I was doing all that. You are just spinning and like you need just little tangible things to like move you out of it. And I mean, there were clearly some diamonds in the rough that I found that have made it into this guide. So we've done the work for you. But I guess I'll give one away. I think like writing a letter to them and not sending it, huge. Yes. And like we even give you a template in this to like use as a starting point.
Yes. I really love that exercise. And I really just love this guide because Julie and I crafted it together based on our research and experience. I find that with traditional advice on breakups, it's always about them, the ex, right?
Yes.
How to get them back. What are they doing right now? Have they moved on? How will they feel about me if I reached out first? It's about them. This guide puts you back at the center of your story, so it's less about them and more about freeing you from this heartbreak. Now, who cares about them? They're going to have their own journey. You cannot control that.
I'm so glad you said that because I do agree that that's where so much is based. So much of it's rooted. And that is also the message that we're trying to send in our book, How to Be Dateable. All is centered around you. This is not a dating book of games to play and ways to trick situations and make them come to you. It's all about like, what do I need? What do I want? How can I be conscious as I'm dating and really, you know, date with myself as the focus? And no, that's not selfish. I feel like I would have heard that years ago and thought that, but this was the game changer of getting you in the driver's seat.
Yes, it's such a treat. And you can find our book at howtobedateable.com.
All the resources for everyone, all the stuff. We got you covered. We're going to help you get out of whatever is going on and find that love life that works.
Yes.
Okay. Well, before we go into it with Cole, let's hear a message from our sponsors.
For so long, I viewed bras and shapewear as torture devices. Like, who invented them? But I've since changed my mind because I tried Skims. The Fits Everybody collection from Skims is like nothing I've ever tried before. Everything just molds to my body. Almost feels like I'm not wearing anything at all. Now, I've heard all about Skims for so long, and let me tell you, they sure live up to the hype. I've really enjoyed wearing the cheeky bikini underwear. It's like my go-to underwear because honestly, I just can't do thongs anymore. But this is the perfect combination of a no-show and comfy. And I also found the perfect color to match my skin. So the undies don't show through white pants. Yeah, finally. Shop Skims Ultimate Bra Collection and more at skims.com and Skims LA flagship on Sunset Boulevard. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show, Dateable, in the drop-down menu that follows. Vacation season is nearly upon us, and this year I'm treating myself to the luxe upgrades I deserve with Quince's high-quality travel essentials at fair prices, like lightweight European linen styles from $30, with premium luggage options and stylish tote bags to carry it all. And what's music to my ears is that all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. I love that. Now, for me, I've upgraded my travel outfit with the Quince Ultra Stretch Straight Leg Ponte Pants. They look like put together slacks, but feel like lounge pants. So perfect for long flights. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/dateable for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DATEABLE.
Okay, let's hear it from Cole.
Welcome to Dateable, Cole, who is a relationship and breakup coach. And in this episode, we're going to be talking all about the breakup. But more importantly, how do you move on from heartbreak?
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you because your story is so fascinating to me of just how you yourself went through a breakup. You're like, okay, let me figure it all out, document my learnings. And then that brought you to creating videos and amassing, this following of people that were also in it, including your now wife. So we want to hear all about this and how she found you. But let's maybe go back even further of where you were when you started this channel and like what state were you in?
The worst one.
Whoa.
I'm pretty amazed that it turned into anything too, because I never studied a ton of this stuff. I did pre-med in college, and I just decided after I was kind of in study mode because I'd just taken the MCAT. So I kind of shifted over from science study into breakup study, but it was mainly grown out of the point that I just never wanted to experience this pain again myself. So if we go back to the very beginning, I got married when I was 20 years old. It was super young, and I'm from Utah, so that's kind of just what people do here. We just get married really quickly. And we were married for about 2.5 years, and I thought I completely figured out everything there was to figure out about life. I was married early. I had a wife I thought was really beautiful. We were going to go to medical school. We had a dog. Everything seemed like it was going exactly to plan. And then one day I was working, and she came home, and I heard her crying downstairs. So I went down there. And she told me that she wanted to get divorced. And up to that point, I was pretty naive when it came to divorce. No one in my family had ever been divorced. And I pretty much considered it a failure if you got divorced. Like either you quit or you really messed something up. And because of that, it really broke who I thought I was. We talked for about 3 days after that. And she would go on these long drives where she would think, and I would just sit at home and wait and think of ways that I could win her back. But after about 3 days, it was pretty final. I decided to move back in with my parents, which was also really difficult for me because I thought I'd grown up, become an adult, and started my life. And that was pretty much the last time I saw her.
Wow.
I ended up going and getting my stuff, and her mom moved back in at that point. And when I went back there, she was just ice cold. There was no chance whatsoever. And it pretty much broke my brain. Have you guys ever seen the show Malcolm in the Middle?
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I latched onto that show because it was like a comfort show when I grew up. During that time, I think I watched like all 7 seasons just in a row to the point that my brain was hurting so bad about reality that I started hallucinating that I was in that show.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was her reasoning?
Yeah.
So now that I look back, the marriage wasn't that good. I grew up always hearing that love was hard. And everyone always tells you marriage is hard. It's the hardest thing, but it's worth it. So we would have big blow up fights like once a month. We had a hard time with each other's families. By the end of the marriage, we weren't visiting each other's families. We would just go alone. So I think the divorce was actually a good choice on her end, but I just didn't think that divorce was possible. I thought you should just work through everything at that point, which I actually don't believe now.
Yeah.
And how long were you guys together, like before the breakup or divorce happened?
3 years total.
So you were under this feeling that many people have, is that once you're in a relationship, especially an ultra committed relationship like a marriage, you can just go on cruise control because you're safe now. If divorce is never an option, you're kind of like, okay, we're just going to stick it out no matter what.
Exactly. And I've now come to believe that I like the idea of believing that anyone can leave you for any reason at any time, because then you always try to be a partner that's worth staying with. Whereas then I just thought I'd checked the box and now I had to worry about other stuff.
Yeah.
I was just going to worry about medical school. I was going to worry about my career. I had figured that out. It was locked in. And that was completely wrong.
So what state were you in? Like when she dropped this bomb of like, it was over.
Yeah.
Where were you? Like, I know you were deep in Malcolm in the Middle, but like outside of that.
Extreme denial and pushing grief away. So my next action actually illustrates it really clearly. The next thing I did 3 days after being separated from her, I jumped on dating apps determined to find another wife.
Wow.
That was literally my plan. My plan was I'm going to pretend this didn't happen. I'm going to find someone to replace her and just continue my life like it was supposed to be.
What was the lowest point during this breakup?
The lowest point I actually think happened after the next breakup.
Oh.
Because what ended up happening was I got on a dating app about literally 3 days after I started. So I got on a dating app. I excused myself by telling myself that I was proving that I was attractive still. That was the lie that got me. I was thinking, I'll just get on. I'll see that people think that I'm attractive again because I have really low self-esteem now. And then I'll be good. This will help me heal, which I've heard now that I've coached a lot of people, so many people fall into that trap.
Yes.
When in reality, I was just trying to fill a void and not be alone. But I got on. I matched with about 10-ish people in the first couple days. And then I literally showed the phone to my little brother and said, which one do you think is the most attractive one? And then he picked one. And then I waited about 3-ish more weeks until the divorce was almost finalized. So it was about a month out from when we got separated. And then I went on a date with that girl that he said was attractive, and she became my girlfriend pretty instantly. We just went on a date, then date 2 or 3. She came on a vacation with my family, and we were dating.
What?
Yep.
And your family was like, cool. Yeah.
It was a small vacation. We ride dirt bikes in the desert a lot, so she just kind of came camping with us. But yeah, it was like a 3-day weekend vacation. And within a month after getting divorced, I had a girlfriend again, and my plan was going exactly like I thought it should. Back on track to having the successful life of being married, medical school, all that.
So what was the low point?
Because obviously that didn't work out.
So what ended up happening was it actually did exactly what I wanted it to for the first about 8 months, which is why I believe so many people go into rebounds. They work. I felt no sadness anymore. I was super happy again. I thought everything was going great. And then we started talking about marriage and what we would be like, what we would do. And immediately all of those feelings came rushing back, which I thought they were gone. And instead they were held behind this invisible wall that was revealed as soon as I reached that point again. By then I became super avoidant. I would look for all of these flaws in my girlfriend. I would look at other couples and be like, why can't we be as happy as them? And I became so distant that she eventually broke up with me too. And then the weirdest thing was I hadn't really thought about my ex-wife at all since the separation. It really did just replace her in my mind. But as soon as the second girl left, I started having dreams about my ex-wife again, even though it was about a year later. And all of the pain from both of those heartbreaks ended up morphing together into one. And I was way more broken this time than I was last time, because this time I felt like it was my fault completely. I saw behaviors that I repeated, like being critical and nitpicking about things that didn't matter, starting little fights that way. I truly believed at that point that I was unlovable, that I couldn't be alone, that I had this time limit on me, that I could get people to fall in love with me. And then once they finally got to know me, they would realize I wasn't worth loving and they would leave. And that was the lowest point.
Wow. You know what you said though? I feel like I've heard so many stories like that of, people just moving on quickly to, cover the pain. And then it all comes like rushing back because you haven't processed anything.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. It's super interesting.
I guess from your perspective, I mean, obviously looking back in retrospect, you can say that wasn't the right approach. What would you say like might have been more healthy for you to go through so you were able to process and then move forward in that more healing way?
So I like to use this analogy when I help people through this problem.
Okay.
I like to imagine that every grief you experience, every heartbreak is like a river, and there's 3 ways you can cross that river. So if you imagine 3 friends going up to a river, the first one jumps right in, just tries to swim and ends up drowning. The second friend was me, sits on the bank of the river and waits for the river to go away, dry up. And as he waits, the river eventually floods and he drowns too. And the third friend, what he does is he takes one step at a time as he's ready, taking breaks when he needs to, and eventually makes it across the river. So what I see people do is, number one, the first group, there's a lot of people that try to handle everything at once and just dive right in, where what that looks like practically is they sit in their bed, they don't eat, they're very sad. They look at all the pictures of their ex all day long. They watch a million videos on no contact, how to get back together and things like that on YouTube all day long.
That was me.
It was me too. It doesn't end up getting better. You reach this point where you've learned everything there is to learn, but you haven't made any personal changes to your life. And then you just end up severely depressed. Second category, which was definitely me in this story, is you just do anything you can to pretend like the pain isn't real. This is the people who get a second job, get really into work. Maybe they get super into hiking or going to the gym. And those things are really good.
Yeah.
But when they're used as a way to forget about the pain and not handle it at all, what happened to me happens to you. You end up thinking you're healed.
Follow-up question to that, because earlier you said rebound work. Did you mean that in an actual positive way, or was that sarcastic?
No, I mean it in a positive way, sort of.
Okay. Explain.
For short-term success, but long-term pain, they work.
Okay.
They're functional in taking away the pain temporarily.
Okay.
That's what they work for it. And I think that's why people do them. Because temporarily, if you're sitting on that side of the river, you think that you're good. You don't have to get in the water yet. So it feels like you're okay, but the water's not removed. It still has to be crossed and it floods. So that's why I believe people get in rebounds, is they work for making you feel better for a month or two, but then you hurt someone else really bad and you hurt yourself worse. And by the end, if we zoom out, it's much better if you never would have done it in the first place.
So this is a little deviating topic, but I want to talk about the people that find themselves, we like to use the endearing word of roadkill.
Yeah.
Basically caught in the middle of someone else's healing process. Like if you were to jump into a relationship where you are the rebound, it can be devastating when you realize this person is not actually, at the point that you thought they were. And all of a sudden they don't want anything and all their feelings are coming back about their ex too. How do you navigate that as the person that's kind of in the middle of it, like the girl in your scenario?
I think prevention is a lot easier. So I'm going to talk about prevention first, not getting into something like that. The first step that I've realized is we often attract people that are at the same place we are. So when I was getting into that relationship with the second girl, I believe now that I've looked back at it, that she was just out of a big relationship too. And I think pretty heartbroken. And I was too. So we were in that same place. We mirrored each other. And because of that, we both wanted to be chosen. We both wanted to be loved. So we just latched onto each other and felt amazing. And that's the danger of dating before you are totally ready, is you can attract things like that naturally. Second, though, there's ways you can see if people are ready to date when you're out dating. And the first way, I think, is looking for speed at which they commit to you. And then second is looking for how they talk about their ex and their past relationships. So the first one, speed. If someone is really ready for a relationship and they're coming from a place of security, the speed is going to make sense. You're going to not be their top priority in their whole entire life after date one.
Right.
You're going to be a good date. You're going to deserve a text back. And then as you progress and as you go on the second and third date, you'll gain in importance in their life. Whereas someone who's not ready, like I wasn't, and they're just looking for love above all else, you'll go on one date with them and you will be the center of their entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to feel really good and it's going to trick you because they're going to be texting you back immediately. They're going to be asking you to hang out every second. And it feels great to be the center of someone's universe at the beginning.
But I can see exactly what you're saying, that like you should not have been necessarily taking this person on vacation on date 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A family vacation too.
Yeah.
Right.
Because someone who's ready is going to have a life that they're proud of. They're going to have hobbies. They're going to have friends. They're going to have lots of different options. And even though you're amazing, you're probably not going to take over their entire life until you get to know them better.
We're talking about the speed of them getting into a relationship. You didn't mention how long they've been out of a relationship. And for both of you, the second time around, you had just been a month out of a divorce. And you said she just got out of a long-term relationship. Was that not a red flag for either one of you?
It should have been. I think we just didn't know. Yeah, it definitely should have been.
But should that be for people too? I mean, I'm asking because I really don't know the answer, because some people can be a month out of a relationship, but they've been a year mentally out of it too.
Yeah. So that's why I don't think there's a straight answer to this one, because when I met my wife, Jocelyn, she got divorced in May, finalized in July, and I met her in September.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, when I met her, I had that exact same fear. I was like, I just barely did this to someone else. And now I'm on the reverse side. I cannot date this girl. But everything when I would interact with her showed that she was over her marriage, that she was totally good and she was healed. So in some ways, I think having an exact number can throw things off.
Yeah.
The most common number, if you want a number, is 1 year. That's what's been studied as the time in grief. They actually got this number from grieving someone who dies, which is similar to someone who breaks up with you, because an important connection is leaving your life. So about 1 year is the best figure I can give you. But for me personally, I was trying to hold on to that, and I was closing my eyes to what I saw in front of me, because with my wife, Jocelyn, they didn't have much connection at all for the last 6 months of their marriage. And she did a lot of her moving on during that time.
Right. I mean, that's the part that's so hard. Like, I think like if you Google like how to get over a breakup, it's always like people are like, how did I do this really fast to just get it done with?
Yeah.
And, you know, in Sex and the City, I always think about this. There was like, you know, for every month that you're with someone, it takes half the time to get over them. And that's like clearly BS, because it's not like.
Because if you're with someone for 12 years, you're like, you've got to be
6
single
years.
and sad for 6 years.
Yeah. And I think sometimes even experience of people we've talked to through this podcast, like you were saying, sometimes in long-term relationships, you've almost like grieved the ending for months before the actual split. And then we've seen people that enter like a situationship or something that's not nearly as serious, but it affects them so much more as it came out of nowhere, the end or something, or they're grieving the life they could have had or the potential of this person.
Yeah.
So I think it's so hard to have like that hard and fast number.
Exactly. With the ones you described with the situationships, most times when I see that, it often has to do with meaning beyond the person.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
Like one common one I see is people who get divorced and then they think, I'm never going to find love again. I have kids now. I'm not attractive. I've got all this baggage. No one's going to want to talk to me. And then they finally find a situationship type person and they latch on and they think, this is my one saving grace. This is the only person that's ever going to love me.
Yeah.
And then they leave. That's what's so hard for people to get over, is now I have 2 pieces of proof that I am unlovable. My one person that was ever going to love me doesn't. So now what do I do? What does this mean about me?
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard for people to get over.
When we talk to people fresh out of breakups, the first question is always like, how long is it going to take? And then the second question is, when will I find someone to love me again?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the same question. So back to what you were saying of how someone describes and talks about their ex can show how much they're over that last relationship. What are some of those signs?
When they tell the story about their ex, if they are moved on, they're going to be the main character in their story. If you ask, have you had any past relationships? and the person responds with something like, and they can even tell about bad details. I got cheated on. It was very difficult. I realized that person wasn't the person for me. And then they bring the story back to they're the main character. But I learned this. I learned to be really proud of myself and love myself because I'm resilient. And then they bring it to where they are now. And now I'm ready for a relationship. I'm looking for something that will be much different from that because I believe I'm ready for it. Whereas someone who's not ready, their ex will be the main character.
Yeah.
They'll talk about it and they'll be like, this guy was terrible to me. He cheated on me. He hurt me so bad. He said this and this and this and this. And I don't know if I could trust people anymore. There's going to be a lot of emotional weight behind their words as well. You'll be able to feel it. There'll be a lot of anger and bitterness. Whereas at least with people who move on, there's an air of forgiveness or at least indifference.
I mean, I know like when I was not over my ex, he somehow made it into conversation on every date.
Yes.
It was like I wanted to talk about it and have a forum. When I finally hit that point of like, okay, I'm actually just trying to meet someone new, not to like compare them. He was not in the conversation at all.
Yep.
And to give you an example of that, in the 10 years that I've known Julie, I've actually never met this ex that she's mentioned that was in her life for 5 years. But he was ever present and I knew about him because he was a main character in your life, even though I never met the person.
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy is when people get stuck in that mode where they're constantly trying to reconcile in their mind how this person could have hurt them so much, the person in their mind often undergoes a character arc that they get worse than they ever were in real life. And I think as I've thought about it more, it's a way that the brain justifies keeping that person in your life is if you make them hurt you more in your imagination, then it makes sense that you're still hurting because of them. So over time, the reality that you're living in your head doesn't actually even match what happened.
Interesting. I mean, we've definitely seen that, but we've also seen the reverse. And I think I fell in this is that I put them on a pedestal, only remembering like the positives and kind of suppressing the stuff that wasn't as good. I think it can go either way. We've seen the extremes.
Yeah.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
Are you too busy to pick out the perfect outfit every day? I get it. It's tough to juggle work, life, and still find the time to focus on fashion. That's where Armoire comes in. With a clothing rental membership, you can effortlessly turn heads with stylish, everyday looks tailored just for you. With all of our book events and photo ops recently, I've rented all my outfits from Armoire. It's been so fun and so great to not have to buy a whole new wardrobe, but also be on trend and even experiment with some different styles. All I did was take a quick 5-minute style quiz, build a personalized closet, and wait for high-quality, unique pieces delivered to my door in as little as 2 days. Oh, and did I mention that Armoire is women-founded and women-led? Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That's up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That's Armoire, spelled ARMOIRE.style/DATEABLE to get up to 50% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today.
When I see people like that and they're like, I've done everything to move on, a lot of times they think they are, but they aren't. So we can go into some of the things like to move on, but there's certain things that are really important to do that you might think you're doing everything you should do, but actually not.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue to like, what are those ways that you navigate it, whether you're the one breaking up technically or being broken up with?
That's a really hard one. The one you're describing, where you're the one who didn't want to break up, but you were the brave person. It's hard because the world doesn't give you a lot of support.
No.
If you ask your friends and things for help with the heartbreak, you just get the answer like, why did you break up then if you missed them? Like, go back to them. But there's definitely times that you do need to leave people you love. It's best for both of you. I really believe that's how it was with my divorce. I think she's happier now and I'm happier now. If anyone's listening who's going through that, I think you should be validated that that's an okay choice and it's a brave choice. Steps. First one is creating space from the person.
Yeah.
So this is no contact. This is not talking to them, but also it's removing things in your life that remind you of them and bring up emotional triggers. So if you have their connection on Venmo, if you guys share a credit card, I remember after my divorce, we shared a credit card and that was my last connection. I would check it 100 times a day to feel like I knew what she was doing.
What? Oh.
If you have pictures on your phone, put them in a hidden folder and have your friend make the password so you can't see them. If you have gifts from them or things of theirs that you can't return right now for any reason, put them in a box, hide them. If things about your room remind you of them, redecorate your room, rearrange things. You've got to realize that detoxing from a person is actually extraordinarily similar to detoxing from an addictive drug. They've done fMRI scans of people's brains who have just gone through heartbreak. One study that I've heard of is they put them in seats and they hooked up their brains and then they showed them pictures of their ex right after the breakup. And the brain activity that lit up, it's called the ventral tegmental system, VTA. It was exactly the same system as lines up when you get a fix of a drug when you're addicted to drugs.
Wow.
It's really important. Same thing as drugs is being away from them, creating physical boundaries. That's step one. Step two, building a new identity for yourself. Because if you can become someone that you really enjoy being and someone that's noticeably different, then your ex kind of becomes irrelevant. They're part of that old identity. They're part of that old life. So I did this on accident. This is the thing that I think really worked out on accident for me. Right after the second girl broke up with me, I realized that my life was really empty. I'd moved back in with my parents and then I immediately got a girlfriend. So I didn't do anything like finding friends or building my own life in that new place. So when she left, I had one friend that had stuck around my hometown since high school. That was it. I was waiting to get into medical school. That was my entire life. I had nothing else. So what I did was I moved down to somewhere that had a lot of people my age. It was near a college. Then I just tried my best to say yes to everything and to do things that scared me. So I went on 11 vacations because people were just going and I would just say yes. The craziest one was I was actually on a date. This was a couple, like 3 or 4 months after. It was just a date from Hinge. But the girl was like, hey, I'm going to Iceland in 2 weeks. Do you want to come? And I just said yes and went. And I had no money. I just did it on a credit card. But these experiences, they built me into someone that I loved being. I was traveling around. I was seeing new things. I was making lots of friends. I started making TikTok videos on how to get through a breakup, just sharing what I was learning in my own life. And by about month 5, I was a completely different person. And because of that, it was a lot easier for me to let go of the past because my life didn't reflect the past anymore.
Yeah.
What would you say to clients who are living with their partner, possibly married, and maybe share kids? Might be harder to physically distance themselves and to say yes to all these experiences.
If you're married and your ex is wanting a divorce and you're trying to save it, then the best thing you can do is start making it real and do as much no contact as is possible. So this is going to make it real for the other person. They're going to actually see, do I want this decision or not? But also for you, it's not going to bring you through this hope and despair loop where you get your hopes up because they smile at you in the hallway. And then you ask them, are we going to stay married? And then your soul is crushed over and over again.
You recommend people physically leaving the shared space. Like, I'm asking because we have friends who may be in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, would you just say, like, pick up your stuff and move somewhere else?
It depends. So if you are actually divorced or broken up and you're living in the same place for financial reasons, which is a lot of people now, I definitely think you need to do everything you can to get to a different place.
Yeah.
It's worth financial sacrifice. It's worth downgrading your lifestyle because what's going to end up happening if you stay there is one, you're just wasting away your life. If people aren't able to get away, there's something called reactance psychology where if someone's freedom is threatened, they instinctively do whatever they can to save it. So if you're living with the person that broke up with you and you're thinking, I'll continue living with them and this is going to remind them how much I love them and things like that, they're instinctively going to try to bring up negative memories around you so that they can create that distance from you and prevent you from convincing them to change their mind. You need to create that distance, and that brings clarity and allows people to make the best decision for themselves.
I think no contact is so important because, yeah, the more you're in contact, you're just still tethered to this person, whether you live with them or even if you don't. I think it still occupies your brain space if you have the text conversations, or I guess it's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And it's not giving you the space to really see the relationship for what it is. My only problem with no contact, I'm saying this as someone that did this, is a lot of times people do it and you get these books, right, of like how to get your ex back, go no contact.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're doing it as a means to get them back. It's like a manipulation tactic a bit.
Make them miss
that
you.
You're like, well, yeah, like I'll withhold for a month and then they'll come back. How do you use no contact in a way that actually benefits you versus just kind of keeps you tethered to this person, even if you're doing the tactic?
I love talking about this. So it's a difficult thing because it's such an easy and hopeful concept to teach that it's all over the internet and it's taught in several different ways. Because you can just say, don't talk to this person. It's a magic drug. And then they're going to fall in love with you again. And like the words on the internet are, they'll come crawling back.
Yeah.
They'll regret losing you. You'll be the biggest regret of their life. They're going to hurt like you hurt. Like there's a lot of that type of language. A lot of people that come to me are coming in that state of mind. Most people who come to me at the beginning are saying, please help me get this person back. They were broken up with. They felt like there's a lot left in their relationship. And like you were saying earlier, the person who initiates the breakup, they may have thought about it for a long time, but the person who gets broken up with and is blindsided, they don't get to.
Yeah.
They just like, I have a partner and now I'm supposed to go date other people. Like that was cheating to me yesterday. And now that's what I'm supposed to do. That's weird.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do when I work with people is I actually believe the actions for moving on and the actions for maximizing getting back together are the exact same at the beginning. So if someone's saying, I really want my person back, I say, okay, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to set up so you don't make the mistakes that will wreck that chance. And then we're going to set that on a shelf. We're going to focus on moving on and creating a life that you love living. Because in reality, that is going to give you the highest chance of getting your partner back too, because you're working to be someone who's highly attractive. But if they don't, then you're going to end up being super happy anyway. That's what happened to me. I'm your worst case scenario. Mine did not come back twice. And I'm super, super happy, married, and have a baby in Hawaii and loving my life. So that's what I do first, is if they're coming and they're like, please help me do no contact to get someone back. I frame it as what we're doing is we're letting them have their choice. We're not doing this in a way to be like punishing them or reverse psychology or anything like that. We're saying they're an adult, you're an adult. We're going to let them have their choice. And by definition, that's actually more attractive because nobody's attractive to someone who's stopping them from choosing things. No one's attracted to people who lock them in a box. And then second thing I say is if your motivation is coming from getting your ex back, but it drives you to do good things, I don't think that's bad. And that might be more controversial, but I just view it as we are wired not to lose connection just by being humans. It's the hardest thing for us to do. So your body gives you adrenaline, it holds back dopamine. You have all this energy to go and chase them down. So if we can redirect that towards, let me learn about attachment styles so that I can be a better partner. Because when they come back, I want to be better for them. Or let me go to the gym and become fit because I want to be more attractive for them. What I've noticed happen is by doing those good things, you end up accidentally raising your self-esteem. And then when you're super fit and super smart and know how to do all these things, I find that it's generally easier for people to let go because they've created a life that they love on the way.
That makes sense.
But without expecting results. I think that's where some people get hung up, is like, I did all this to get them back and it didn't get them back. And yes, I feel better, I look better, but why is this still not working? Am I still not good enough?
It is. It's something that has to be slowly accepted over time, because if you don't accept it and you're just thinking, I'm just going to get this person back if I do all this stuff, it creates a second heartbreak.
Yeah.
You have to break up in your mind with the potential of reconciliation.
So what would happen to me, like clockwork, was I would go no contact for like a month, and then they would come back. And they would be like, I miss you. I want to retry this, or not even necessarily like commit to being in a relationship. It was a lot of empty promises and I miss yous. And I never had the tools to like reevaluate the relationship and set it up in a successful way. So what would happen is the same cycle would happen if I was to re-engage with them. I guess for people where this happens, where you do get your ex back eventually, how do you actually make it that it becomes a sustainable relationship and not just a cycle?
I like to use the analogy of if you have 1 + 1 = 2, and then you take each of those ones and put them in a separate room and wait 30 days and then bring them back, it still equals 2. So it sounds like with what you're describing, you and your ex equal a breakup. And then you guys separate for 30 days, you're the same. And then you come back and you still equal a breakup. And that's what a lot of people do. And that's why I don't like the idea of 30-day no contact. It's just not very much time to change character traits. I think it's just used to more sell courses and sound cool because it is really doable. And everyone's like, I can make it 30 days.
Right.
I can do this. But yeah, you need to fundamentally change things about yourself, and they need to change things about themselves that led to breaking up. So what I have people do right at the beginning when I'm working with them is I have them make a list of 3 to 5 things that if their ex came back and was begging to be in their life again, what would they have to see change or be different in order to accept them back? And there's one major rule to the list too. It has to be understandable by a 7-year-old. Like if you gave it to a 7-year-old, they would have to know what it means. So a lot of people put things like better communication or kindness or trust, and that doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
Thinking like we have to have a relationship review once a week as we rebuild trust. I need to see that they take complete accountability and show reflection as to why they left. Things really specific like that. And then I would print that and realize that you are going to betray yourself if they come back and ask. You are not going to want to follow your list. So you need to have it with you, like carry that and be thinking, okay, these are my rules. I made these when I was in a really calm state of mind. I realize I'm not in a calm state of mind right now. So I need to use this as my map to determine if I'm going to allow them back in my life or not.
Yeah, I like going in with a specific plan like that. We made up this term Afflecking. It's like when you do the Ben Affleck thing where you like get back with J-Lo, but like nobody has changed. And you're like, we're going to get married. We're each other's soulmates. And then you realize, actually, no, we're the same. I'm the same jackass as I was 15 years ago when we first got engaged. And then from your experience working with couples who have successfully gotten back together, if you could attribute that to one thing, what was the one thing that helped them successfully get back together in a way that was healthy?
Accountability on both sides.
Oh.
If both people are able to look at their relationship and say, this is what I did wrong, this is what I did wrong, and then they both take actual steps to change, like both people have gone to therapy or both people had even read books. Like therapy isn't the only answer, but they've both realized what they did wrong and done something to fix it. And then also they've looked at life and they've made a decision on purpose, not out of anxiety. Like they've actually thought about it. And that's why usually when people are getting back together after 3 or 4 months, it's a lot more stable than after 30 days. It's because they've actually experienced life without the other person. Both of them have. And then they decided maybe they've gone on other dates. I think that actually makes it more successful too. They've gone out and seen what else could be. And then they decide, no, this person is my favorite. I like life a lot more with this person. I've seen people get married after that and have super successful marriages. But it takes accountability and a rational choice rather than a moment of anxiety at 2 a.m.
Right. And there are stats about like 50% of people like do break up at least once or something like that.
I think that's the exact stat.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
It kind of blew my mind when I heard that. But I think you can hold on to that even if it's in the wrong relationship. Because I remember holding on to that stat for a while. But I also do see like, I don't know, I mean, Yue, your story, you definitely had a breakup and then came back together and they're still together and it's a totally different relationship.
Yeah.
But I think accountability was probably the big factor. I don't know what you would think.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking about that too. In the relationship I'm currently in, we were broken up for 2 months, but we broke up the first time never with the intentions of getting back together. It was like this first phase of our relationship is done. Let's close this chapter. But I think in those 2 months, we both had our own explorations and growth and somehow met back together in a way that was really aligned. But we had a plan, though, for that second time around. It was like, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Let's try this for 30 days again with this newfound growth and accountability that we both have, and then reevaluate at the end of 30 days. And I think for me, having gone back to relationships where things never changed, my biggest fear was we're just getting back into old patterns.
Yeah.
So my number one rule was, if we ever revisit old patterns or issues, let's address it right there. Let's not keep hanging on to it.
One of the biggest problems I see when people get back together is they do the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah.
They think if we talk about things that were difficult, if we bring up the problems we had, then they're going to leave. We can't talk about difficult things. I can't provide any friction for them to come back into my life. I need to clear the way so that I have the highest possible chance. And that almost inevitably leads to breaking up again. And there's a lie that's told in a lot of videos online too, that you can just be a clean slate. That was the first relationship. This is the second relationship. And I really think that ignores reality.
Yeah.
You two did have a past. Things did happen. And humans don't just let go of the past. We need those loops to be closed. We need repair. So if people are trying to reconcile like that, I recommend first, having some fun dates, reestablishing a connection. Don't dive into difficulty the first time you see them. It's never going to work. But then, if you're actually going somewhere and if you're agreeing something, like you said, Yue, like a new relationship, then you definitely need to talk about the things that broke you up.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. And if you lose them because of that conversation, you are going to lose them worse later.
Right.
If they can't survive the conversation of how we're going to begin,
right,
and you're thinking, I'm going to just make my way around that, you will break up again, and it's going to hurt way worse that time.
Yeah.
So when you're in the thick of it, it can be hard to see that this breakup is the best thing that ever happened to you. But you're clearly living proof now, Cole, that things can get better. In fact, way better than they ever were. What advice would you have for someone that's struggling right now and finding it hard to see the silver lining and maintain that hope?
One thing that helped me a ton, if you do believe in God, or you believe that something bigger than you cares about you, that helped me a lot. When I thought about maybe I don't know the best plan for my life, maybe 23-year-old me who has experienced nothing, why do I know the happiest I can be? I don't. And I thought I did. We all think we do. And then as we go through life, we figure out that there's much better things out there. So that's the first thing. I think if you can put your trust in something bigger than you, smarter than you, I think that helps. If you don't have that, I think you can also get it by thinking of your life like a movie. In that every single movie, it's beauty, and then it goes to a conflict where you think nothing will get better ever again. And then that's what makes the movie really good, is the main character gets out of that. But there's a moment in there where you're like, I have no idea how this can ever happen. And if you approach that with curiosity and you think of your own life, okay, I know my life's going to turn out beautiful. Movies always end good, but what's going to happen? And then last thing is, if you've ever been through a heartbreak before, maybe this is your third or fourth heartbreak and you're starting to feel hopeless, then maybe this is how it's always going to be. Try to put yourself in the shoes that you wore during your last heartbreak. For Julie, if you somehow went through a heartbreak now, which is never going to happen, but
hopefully,
if
you never know.
if that somehow happened, then you could look back to that 5-year relationship and be like, I was sure that this was the deepest connection I was ever going to find.
Yeah.
I was sure there was nothing else out there, and I was dead wrong. I don't know what else is out there. And I think that humility helps you have hope for the future.
I really like that, because I think that's just a good takeaway in general of, being more not attached to the path that you're on. You can still be attached to an outcome of what you want your life to look like holistically, or have a vision of what that outcome is. I think a lot of times with breakups, a lot of it is, of course, we miss the person, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it is mourning the life that we thought we were going to have, or coming to terms again with being single, or realizing we have to go start dating again. But what you were saying of just like having faith that something like bigger is meant for you and that you can still have all you want in life, it just might look a little different, is such a good approach to not necessarily losing hope of the part that you lost in the sense of outside of that person. I think the other thing that you said that's so important is when we build up our self-esteem and confidence in other parts of life that doesn't have to do with dating, when we inevitably go back into dating, I think that legwork is so pivotal because we all know that dating, even for the best of us, can be very straining and difficult, like when you get ghosted. And I know like the times when that's hurt the most is when it's compounded with some other breakup or unprocessed emotion. So sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm losing all this time and I just want to jump back into dating. But when we're regaining those skills that are like a pivotal dating skills, but maybe aren't like necessarily relating to another human, but still essential, you're not wasting time. You're just building up in a different way. So when you do enter the dating space, you have that sense of self and you're letting this stuff roll off a little more than if like all your emphasis was on being liked and approval and all of that.
I completely agree with all that. You show up based on who you are. And if you don't spend any time building that, then you're just going to attract heartbreak.
It's interesting you bring up religion because I do think spirituality plays a huge part in breakups of believing in something bigger than yourself. And at the basis of a lot of religions across the board, there's this one belief that the universe wouldn't give you something you weren't capable of handling.
Completely.
So
yeah.
In going through my last breakup, those words kept coming up for me was like, this is meant for me to handle. This is not more than what I can handle. And also knowing that everything is temporary and this breakup is a phase, is not a static moment in your life. I really believe that when we place the belief on something bigger, rather than the person that broke up with you, or rather than on you or the people that you're trying to get validation from, you see the bigger picture of where your life is headed. And it's usually in a direction that's much better and much bigger and much more grand than what you ever imagined.
There's a scripture in the Bible that I've really thought is the summary of my journey. But it says that all things will work together for the good of them who love God. And I remember one time I was laying on the couch with Jocelyn. We were dating at the time and we were just looking at each other and being all in love and stuff like that. She
Gross.
started like she started winking one eye at a time. Like she'd like look at me this way, then this one, like peeking back and forth. And it was a really special moment for me because when I was married, my ex-wife used to do that too. But it wasn't a moment of comparison. What it meant to me was after she left me, I really believed that that was my first place life. I had this track and it was going to be the happiest I could possibly be. And then I screwed it up. And then after that, I was going to get second or third place life. And that was really sad because I was only 23 and I thought I messed everything up and I was just going to have to live the next 70 years almost as happy as I could have been. And in that moment, it like spoke to me and was like almost like a sign to me that you still get to have your first place life.
I love that.
So good.
You can deviate. You can make mistakes, you can learn. But if you just continue to do your best and don't give up and continue being curious about where your path is going to end up, I think all of those roads can lead you to your first place. And I really believe I'm living it now, even though it was nowhere near what I planned for.
That's so good to hear.
It's never what you plan for.
Yeah, love that. Well, hopefully that could leave everyone on an inspirational note that whatever you're feeling right now, even if it is intense pain and heartbreak, it's not going to be forever. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Cole, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. If you search my name, Cole Zesiger, or on Instagram, it's Coach Cole Zesiger. Then you can find me there. And if you'd like to work with me, then CoachColeZesiger.com is where you can find all of that.
Awesome. And we'll link it all in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much for being on our show. It's been such a fun time collaborating with you on a topic that is top of mind for a lot of people. And while you're searching for Cole's podcast, why don't you also look us up on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and review. The reviews go a long way. Give us 5 stars. In the body of your review, maybe tell us what is the best way you've gotten over a breakup? What is something you learned from your journey that you can share with our listeners? And also pick up our book, How to Be Dateable.com. You can find it everywhere books are sold. And we do talk about this gaining clarity in dating, but also how do you clear the past? How do you pave the way for something much clearer in your love life? Okay, on that, we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you again, Cole, for being on Dateable.
Stay
Dateable.